Hey everybody, welcome to our Wednesday Wisdom. Normally it's Rich and I, but if you notice, Rich has been replaced by my coffee cup. So, delicious. Thank you, Rich. So it's just me today, Wednesday Wisdom, where we give you tips and tricks on bandage repair. We've been going over for the past few weeks a pivot screw series. Today is part 5 of 5. Our pivot screw series, we're going to be going over Buescher saxes or Buescher cylindrical saxophones. A couple things I got to get out of the way first. Our YouTube winner for last week for entering whatever the hashtag was, Daniel Angel. Daniel, if you go ahead and send Rich an email, rich@MusicMedic.com, even though he's not here today, he will answer your email and get you your prize out. For this week's prize, those of you that want to enter, you have to write in the comments, Buescher sax. Write Buescher sax, put it in the comments, however you say it, Buescher, Buescher, doesn't matter. Just write it, put it in the comments. The other thing to do is make sure you like, share, subscribe, and since this is YouTube, make sure you click that bell. I know we're started a little early, something crazy we don't normally do, but if you click the bell, you would get notifications on when we do start early. So again, like, share, subscribe, put Buescher sax in the comments below. That'll get you entered into our weekly prize giveaway. I believe we're doing gift cards or Rich's hat and glasses, maybe his shoes. I don't know. He's not here to say no, so I'm going to assume that's what we're going to go with. So, write Buescher sax, put it in the comments, like, share, subscribe. You're going to win Rich's shoes. It'd be fantastic. Excellent. Another thing to take care of, let you guys know that we do have some in-person courses coming up. There's our calendar of courses, a couple ones that are coming up fairly soon in July. I'm doing a sax basics course here in person in Wilmington in the Sax Pro Shop here at MusicMedic. Not in this room though. It'll be out in the shop. But it's July 11th through the 14th. It's a 4-day course. Look into that. It's on our website. The other thing that we have is an in-person clarinet basics course. And that is going to be the 25th through the 28th. Again, here in Wilmington in the Sax Pro Shop at MusicMedic. Again, not in this room. It'll be out in the shop. So look for those. Sign up for those. We'll have more coming up as well. We'll update this. I think there's an advanced course that we're going to have in person and then an engraving course in October that I will be doing. So there you go. So let's get started. Send it onto the overhead. Couple things we're going to go over. We're going to go over the first 4 types of pivot screw systems that we had. The first being the true tapered system. Here it is. Here's our pivot screw. Here's our post. There's our pivot screw. The end of the key has a corresponding hole that is also tapered, and that's how these kind of fit and ride together. It's right in here to right there. So that's our true tapered system. Next, done. False tapered system. True tapered system, you'll find this with Mark 6s, Yamahas, Yanagisawas, Kyleworths, older Selmers. The newer Selmers have a different style, but Mark 6s definitely have this true tapered system. False tapered system. You'll find this a lot in your import horns, P. Moriat, Cannonball, those like that. The biggest difference, and I should have pointed that out before I drew it, one of the biggest differences is in the pivot screw where it has a slight cylindrical section before the pivot screw tapers. So right in here, it just has a little bit more of a cylindrical section than the true tapered system. The other big difference is the end of the hinge tube, rather than having this corresponding notch that fits the taper of that pivot screw, it just has a hole drilled in, just like that. And what you'll find here to take up any slack is stuff put in here. And I think I've said it before, it's cork, bits of plastic, I've even seen brass shavings, but just kind of a filler for the false tapered system. The next system that I went over was the Kahn locking pivot screw system. So we have here's the tapered tip. The end of the key also has a tapered hole in it, so it's very similar to the true tapered system. What sets this apart is it has the pivot screw can actually be adjusted, the depth of it. It's threaded, but it has this little section in the middle where there are no threads, because what happens is a very small set screw right in there contacts it, and you can actually adjust how far that tip sticks out. Okay, so if it's this far and you have a little bit of looseness, you can actually loosen up this set screw, put that pivot screw so it sticks out a little bit further, set your set screw, and then you're good to go. Okay, the biggest downside of this is people that take these apart either don't realize or forget to loosen that set screw. They back this out and it ends up chewing up your your threads here on your pivot screw, which then causes the pivot screw to be loosed in the post. So, con locking pivot screw. Next, we have the King. I think we went over that one last week. This is the King locking nut style. Let me make some room here. So we have our post. There's our post. There's our pivot screw, and it is more of a straight tapered pivot screw. You know, it's this versus something like this. Okay? The end of the key is very similar to that true tapered system, where it does have a corresponding hole that matches the depth of the pivot screw. The biggest difference is this is a headless pivot screw, so the threads go all the way out. There is no head on it, and you can actually control the depth much like the con style by threading it in or threading it out, and then it has over here a locking brass nut. So you can determine how far that sticks out. When you get it to where it needs to be, you set that locking nut. It keeps that pivot screw exactly where it needs to be, and you don't have any lost motion or oscillating or lateral play. So those are the first four that we've gone over so far. What we're going over now is the Buescher style cylindrical pivot screw. And again, if you want to get entered in our contest, go ahead and put Buescher Sacks or Buescher Sacks or Buescher Sacks down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell, send us money. You don't have to do that, but I would appreciate it. So, first let me go and show you a quick picture of what a Buescher Sacks pivot screw looks like up close. So let me go to, well, that's not it. That's Rich. That's what Rich is out doing today. Let's see here. Well, that's not it. That's what happens when I go scooting around. There we are. So we have our Buescher cylindrical pivot screw. Okay, there you see it on the right, and then there you can see the key end. So let me draw it real quick for you so you guys can see exactly what that consists of. So we have our post. Rather than having a tapered tip to our pivot screw, the Buescher style cylindrical pivot screw is just a cylindrical piece that sticks out like that. Okay, and here's our threads, and it does have a head on it like so. Okay, so that is our Buescher style cylindrical pivot screw. At the end of the key, so let me start it over here. The end of the key is very similar to the false taper in that it doesn't have a tapered hole drilled in. It just has a cylindrical hole that goes in it. Okay, so that's essentially your Buescher style pivot screws. That's it. I'm over. I'm done. No, there's more. Couple things about these is, first off, how do you fit them? Well, it's very, very, very important when you're dealing with the Buescher style that your posts aren't too far spread apart. Okay, it's very, very important that here's a post, here's your other post, that your key fits tightly between post faces. Okay, any little space right there is going to give you that lateral play back and forth. Okay, so you have to make sure, first off, with Bueschers, dealing with them, is that your posts are right against the hinge tube. Okay, that'll take care of your lateral play back and forth. The other thing that you have to worry about is that you have to make sure that your pivot screws are pointed next to each other, that they're pointed close, okay, or they're aimed at each other. If you get your post close together, but one pivot screw is aimed like this, when you go and try to tighten that down, that key is going to bind. So the post can't be too far spread, and then you also have to make sure that your pivot screws from both angles. So if you're looking at a top view, one can't be twisted this way or that way. Okay, so they have to be pointed at each other both ways. The next thing you can do to get rid of kind of that oscillating play, you know, so we've taken care of this lateral play. Okay, I have my posts close together. There's no lateral play, but sometimes you get a little bit of oscillating play. Okay, what you can do is you can swedge just a little bit. Okay, right at the very end. So you'll put that pivot screw in. You'll put your swedging pliers on. You kind of tighten it up around. That'll take care of any looseness. So after tightening or after swedging, there shouldn't be any looseness with it. Sometimes you do run across it, just like with that picture I showed you, not that one or that one. This one right here, we have the key spine that goes to the very end of the key. Okay, so here we have, maybe it's a key arm and it goes to a pad cup. Okay, it's at the very end. And I can't do any swedging. Sometimes what I will do is I will actually make a brand new pivot screw. Okay, if I could draw my pivot screw out very quickly, here's my threads, there's that non-tapered, that cylindrical section. What I will do is when I make that pivot screw, I will make this part right here wider. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger diameter-wise. Okay, especially if it's very small in the hole. Okay, and I make it bigger. Now it's going to be much, much tighter. So it is much, much easier to make Buescher style pivot screws than it is to make other, Mark 6s, because you're not dealing with a taper like this. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, so you don't have to worry about dealing with the taper. It's just a cylindrical part like this. So I can go in and I can make it a little bit bigger to a certain extent, because obviously I have threads there. So what are the advantages? Well, like I said, it's much, much easier to, if you need to, make a pivot screw. Okay, with the others, it's not as easy. What's the downside is it does take a little bit more work to kind of fit them. You do have to do more with your posts, making sure that they're not too far spread. You have to make sure that the pivot screws are aimed at each other. And then again, sometimes you have where the spine goes to the very end and you can't swedge at the very end of the hinge tube. So you have to do some creative work there. So what do you do if the pivot screw is stuck? Well, you get a big hammer and you curse a lot and you just go at it. No, don't do that. What you can do is you can get a little bit of corrosion cracker or penetrating oil, and you can kind of drip that in right here where the head is and a little bit in there, and just heat it up and kind of just wait. Okay, you can use gravity as well. I think one of our viewers on our Facebook feed commented, you can use gravity. Yes, so I can tip this whole thing up, drip some oil down there and let gravity kind of bring it down in there. A little bit of heat, a little bit of time, and eventually, hopefully that'll get unstuck. Lubricating. Well, first off, if you lubricate it, you won't have to deal with pivot screws getting frozen in there. But what I really like to use for lubricating really any type of pivot screw system is in the end of the keys, I'll put a little bit of this stuff, which is our UltiMax pivot and roller lubricant. I like it because it comes in this handy to use syringe, so I can actually just put that in there, pull a little dab at the very end of the inside of my hinge tube, and then when I assemble everything, it's properly lubricated. So I think that's it. Usually Rich kind of takes it from here. So once again, make sure you guys put in Buescher Sacks, put it in the comments, like, share, and subscribe. Rich is out there doing some scooting. He'll be back next week. The winner, again, Daniel Angel. Go ahead and send Rich an email, RICH@MusicMedic.com, to go ahead and claim your prize. And again, this week, if you guys want to get in on the drawing, go ahead and write Buescher Sacks, this right here, Buescher, Buescher. Put it down in the comments. Again, like, share, subscribe, click the bell, send me money, whatever else you want to do. I think next week I am going to be out at the Tapered University Training Center out in Normal, Illinois. I will be doing a week-long saxophone intensive course, and I think we're planning on doing some kind of live via satellite from there to here to you all, so you can see kind of what's going on there. Again, one more thing before you leave is check out our calendar of courses. Some of our in-person courses are going to be happening here in MusicMedic, in Wilmington, in the Sax Pro Shop. Again, not in this room, but they will be happening. So check those out. Buescher, write it in the comments. Let's see, did I get everything? Did I get everything? I think that's it. Rich is out scooting. And I think that'll do it for now. So until next time, happy repairing.